Hello everyone, thank you for joining me once again. I hope we're all well and staying safe. Today I'm going to continue on my relationship series and on the topic that I started from last week. The topic was centered around the fear of settling for less. So in that video, I touched on some key points. One of it was I tried to explain what settling for less could be in terms of a relationship. So the idea of settling for Mr. Right Now or Mr. Available. Then I also touched on some points or some pressure points that would actually lead, in this case, a single lady to decide or choose to settle for less. And then I also touched on knowing what your pressure points are so that you are able to deal with them. Today I'm going to continue, and I think I still would like to buttress a bit on the issue of the pressure points, because knowing what pressures you are facing would go a long way to help you in the issue of settling for less in a relationship. So the pressure points, last week I touched on time. I also touched on the fear of being lonely or being by yourself, and the fact that you may be having too high a standard when it comes to relationships. These pressure points are not exhaustive in themselves, because again it would depend from it would vary from one individual to the other. But I think a major part to solving an issue or to solving a problem would be to actually know where the problem is stemming from. For some ladies that are in like developing countries, like Africa, for instance, the pressure is usually societal. So in Africa, there is that pressure for the women to be married at a certain age, because again, there is that fear that when you get past a certain age, it might get really difficult for you to meet somebody, or you might not even be able to get married after that age. The whole issue of this spirals down to the fact that some in those societies or in those cultures, there is a fear that as a woman gets older, she might not be able to bear children. And children are seen as a very important part of a partnership or marriage in those settings. So you have to be able to really understand your own situation. Because really, I must say to you that these pressures are real. I'm not going to deceive or be in denial here that these pressures do not exist. So this video is really trying to help you to see how you can go past these pressures, just so that you do not settle for less and then end up regretting. Know what the pressures are for you. Is it your family? Is it the friendships that you keep? Because really, sometimes too, our friendships affect the kind of decisions that we make, and also the kind of pressure that we put upon ourselves. So if you are in a circle of friends where to be married or to be in a relationship is the ultimate goal and there is nothing else outside of that, then if you are the only single person in that circle of friends, you would be bound to be facing pressure to settle. If you come from a family where marriage for a girl is the ultimate, then you would be facing that pressure. So if it is the case of a family, then you may need to have a discussion with those members of your family. For example, father and mother, in some cases aunties. Again, it depends on the culture. To explain to them that you want to do this thing right, if it is really the case for you that you want to be in a relationship, and if not, also to make it clear to them, because there is that pressure also of trying to meet these expectations. A lot of us sometimes put the pressure upon ourselves because we think that we are indebted to these loved ones, in the case our family members. You begin to just feel like a failure because your father or your mother are expecting grandchildren, or they're expecting in-laws, and you have not been able to give them that. Sometimes I've seen cases where single ladies are so worried because what if their father or mother dies and they never give them the gift of grandchildren or the gift of in-laws? So there is just that pressure. So you have to be able to really sit down and ask yourself the truth. Like, where are my pain points? Where is this issue coming for me? Like, why am I stressed about this? Why do I just want to settle? You have to ask yourself the real question. Now, the reality here is that sometimes too, it is ourselves putting the pressure upon us, upon our own selves, because a lot of the times you think that these people that you're trying to impress, your family, your friends, and society in general, that they really they are really the ones putting the pressure upon you. But you have to just sit down and ask yourself if they are the ones, or if you are the one putting the pressure on yourself. Now, I also want to point here that this is not to say that you should not desire to have somebody, or that you should not desire to be in a relationship. If that is your desire, to be with somebody in a healthy, loving relationship, that is fine. The issue here is that you are not settling. You are not just going to pick any man that is available at this point in time just because you want to get on with it. Because if you speak with people that are in relationships, that are married, you would find out that it is not about just getting on with it. There is a lot that has to come to play for you to actually be in a healthy, loving relationship. So first of all, find out what your pressure points are. What are those things stressing you? And then try to sit down and begin to analyze how you can handle them. They may not completely disappear, but when you know the source of a problem, then you are better prepared. Knowing what it is, and if it has to do with the company that you keep, you may need to reassess that friendship or those friends. If it means that for some time you have to go away from that circle of friends, they may not be bad, but it's just because at this point in your life, you don't need the kind of pressure that is coming out from that circle of friends. Another big thing that sometimes happens that people are not aware of is the influence of social media. You have to be very careful. A lot of the times what we see on social media are not real but make believe. If you base your life on what you see on social media, you will put yourself under pressure. Pictures from friends, pictures from celebrities, and the list goes on and on. What you read on social media about what you should have attained or achieved at this age or at this stage in your life, the movies that you watch, the news that you take in, we think that these things do not matter, but they shape us. They form our thinking, and sometimes they put unconscious pressure on us. So you have to look very carefully where these pressures are. I'm still stressing here that you want to know as much as you can so that you are better equipped and prepared. I have had cases where people have decided to go off social media or to cut contact with some certain people or certain sites on social media just because at this point in their lives they do not need it. And so these are the things that some of the things I think that you have to do. It's a holistic process because you want to be a happy person, and these pressures would continue to stress you unless you look them in the eyes, unless you look at them head on and try to deal with them. Now, the issue about standards also is another one that I think I really would like to stress more on, because standards are what makes us. We are individuals with varying likes, needs. Your love language will be different from my love language. The way that you like to handle communication will be different from the way that I handle communication. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, when it comes to standards also, and when it comes to linking it to settling for Mr. Available, or the fear that you might be settling for less in a relationship, there is one very important point that people often overlook, and that is where it comes to finance. Finance is a topic people don't like to talk about for fear of it getting very messy, or people don't just feel comfortable when it comes to talking about finances in a relationship, even in marriage, because it can put a lot of stress. But when it comes to settling for less, a lot of the cases that I've seen, one aspect has been in terms of finance. So the financial capability of the individual or the individuals involved in that relationship. I'm going to stop here for now, and then next week I will continue on this very important point on finance when it comes to settling for less, or settling for Mr. Available or Mr. Right Now in a relationship. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I hope to make it a date with you same time next week. Bye bye.